The Fairy Thief is one of the most delightful tales of the fairy tale genre, and one of the most puzzling. Its hero is a clever lad named Smerg, whose father has died, leaving him as heir to a great fortune, but with no idea what to do with it. His mother is too young to be trusted with such responsibilities, and his aunt, who is supposed to look after him, is more concerned with her own interests. So, with a little help from a fairy godmother, he decides to go off in search of a suitable wife. The first village he comes to is called Glubos, a name that is probably derived from Glubo, an archaic word for misfortune. He finds no shortage of princesses in the town, but each one is the victim of a curse, which makes them unappealing as prospective wives. In addition, they are all unwilling to believe in his magical powers. So he sets out for the second village, which he remembers as being a long way off, beyond a dark forest, with a king who lived on the other side of that forest and a daughter who was a beauty. This time, he finds not princesses but a maiden named Rana, who is extremely eager to become his wife. But she is also an enchantress, and she soon realizes that her husband can see through her illusions. She attempts to bribe him with a magical dress, which she uses to turn him into an ass, but the dress does not work, and he turns it into a tower. The enchantress flees into the forest, where she encounters a dragon, who turns her into a serpent. The ass returns home, but before he can do anything else he falls asleep. Meanwhile, back at Glubos, Smerg's father's fortune is beginning to dwindle, and his aunt has gone into hiding to keep it safe. The boy is troubled by these events, but he is more worried about his newfound wife, whom he has not seen or heard from since he set out. One day he encounters a woodcutter and asks him to take a message to her. The woodcutter replies that if he can get him to Glubos, he can do as he asks. Smerg pays him well for the journey and promises to reward him handsomely if he brings him a message from Rana. The woodcutter agrees and heads off toward Glubos with a message. When he gets there, the villagers do not believe that Smerg really is a prince, or even that he really exists. His story has no credibility to it. No one would be fool enough to leave his castle for the sake of some half-crazy story about a fair-haired maiden with a magic dress and a tower full of gold and jewels. But the woodcutter does his best to persuade them otherwise. Finally, one of the villagers, an old man who is missing his right hand, offers to take Smerg to see the princess for himself, and the boy reluctantly agrees. The old man leads Smerg to a cave in the mountains and shows him the hand of the woodcutter, which has been severed at the wrist and stuffed with straw. Inside the cave is Rana, now turned into a serpent, who attacks the woodcutter and kills him. As he lies dying, he tells her that he has carried out her instructions and brought her the message. He also tells her about his encounter with Smerg, and she becomes so frightened that she transforms herself into the form of a beautiful maiden again and tells him to leave at once. The woodcutter obeys and starts back to the village. But Rana decides to follow him and come with him back to Smerg. When she reaches his house, she transforms herself once again into her true form and tells him that she has killed the woodcutter and hidden his body in the woods. The next day, Smerg sets off again in search of his wife. He goes all the way to the second village, where he meets the old man again. This time Smerg is prepared for the transformation of his wife and asks the old man to tell him how it happened. The old man confesses that he cannot remember the details, except that when he was young he saw the princess walking in the forest. He followed her until she came to a stream, and he tried to kiss her. She turned into a snake and attacked him. He fled in terror, never seeing her again, but he later learned that she had become the dragon who lived in the forest. Smerg immediately sets out for the dragon's cave. When he arrives, he sees the dragon devouring the woodcutter's body, and he hurls a stone at her head. The dragon looks up at him with one eye and asks him what he wants. Smerg explains that it was she who turned his wife into a serpent. Then he explains that it was his wife who turned his father into an ass and his aunt into a tower. Now he wants her transformed back to her true shape. The dragon agrees and disappears into the forest. Smerg waits impatiently for her to return, but she does not come back right away. Instead, he finds a huge egg on the ground. It hatches before his eyes and produces a handsome young woman, who is Rana once again. They go back to the castle together, and everyone lives happily ever after.